everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Women Gone Wild podcast, a space where rebellious, authentic, expressive, free-spirited women who don't fit into a box are celebrated and encouraged to keep popping her shit. I'm your host, Zae, and whether this is your first time here or your 11th time here, welcome. I'm glad you fuck with me. I fuck with you too. I want to talk about the benevolent patriarch, but before I get into the nitty-gritty of what that even means, I would like to preface this discussion by saying that the term misandry does not belong in this conversation. Okay? And there are a few reasons why the term misandry does not belong in this conversation about the benevolent patriarch. Womanism and feminism are not misandry. Women having standards and refusing to date men who do not meet those standards is not misandry. But even if it were misandry, there are a few differences between misandry and misogyny that I think we should take a look at. Okay? So first of all, misandry does not exist in isolation, unprovoked, and uncalled for. Misandry is a response to misogyny, both of which are byproducts of patriarchy in the same way that pro-blackness and anti-white supremacy are byproducts of racism. You got it? Good. Misandry does not take away men's rights to reproductive health care and bodily autonomy. Misandry does not limit a man's opportunities, status, power, income. Misandry does not kill men. The only thing that misandry does is revoke access to individual women, which men are not entitled to. We can argue all day that patriarchy is harmful and contributes to a decline in men's mental health due to the expectations placed on them to perform and fulfill gender roles in a particular manner. But let's not mistake the self-harming aspects of patriarchy for misandry. Patriarchy is what taught men to place their value in their wealth and their status and their demeanor as masculine men. And, to put their... patriarchy is what also inspired men to put their mental and emotional well-being on the back burner. Misandry didn't do that. So I just want to clarify that misandry does not do anything to men except deny access to women as individuals, which again, men are not entitled to. Men are not entitled to have women act as martyrs so that we can help them preserve or recover their mental health or whatever the fuck y'all expect women to do for y'all's mental health. Okay? That's not the case. And refusing to do that is not misandry. So I just want to make that clear. Get it. Got it. Good. Okay. So now that I've made my prefacing statement, we can move on. So it's 2025 and many women are evolving past the expectation that society has placed on us for centuries, which is to do more for less. And I would say that modern feminism is responsible for half of our journey. However, womanism has fulfilled the remainder of the prophecy. Now, to explain womanism, I'm first going to examine feminism, what it means, why we needed it, and why it's not quite enough. So feminism challenges gender inequality and advocates for cultural, social, and political ideals or concepts that support equal rights and opportunities among all genders, sexes, etc. Feminism combats the unfair treatment, discrimination, patronization, and objectification that women have endured throughout history. We needed feminism to combat global issues such as femicide, genital mutilation, child marriage, domestic violence, rape culture, and just an overall ignorance towards women's reproductive health, as well as discrimination, harassment, and the overall shame that is projected on us for simply being born female. We needed feminism to access our humanity so that we can feel like more than a man's property. Now, what many don't realize is that the face of feminism has always been white women. So that is why we need a little bit more than that, okay? We need a little bit more than that, because the only thing that white women had to endure was misogyny. They did not have to also endure racism. Okay? That is the feat of the black woman. So we needed womanism for black women who have both misogyny and racism to navigate in this world. The intersection of sexism and racism can best be described as misogynoir, as black women held a very unique place on the spectrum in terms of power and privilege. We stand in direct opposition to the white male and travel through spaces that white women nor black men have ever been. We had to kick it up a notch and use womanism to access our power. So it's now about more than just being equal to men or being seen as human in men's eyes. Womanism is specifically for the black woman, as race and gender have presented us with some rather unique challenges and experiences. The foremothers of womanism include Alice Walker and Audre Lorde, whose works serve as foundational pieces within the framework of the concept itself. These themes include resistance, sexuality, sensuality, rebellion, existing, surviving, and thriving in this anti-black patriarchal world. So, under the concept of womanism, I feel like the framework of womanism takes patriarchy for what it is and applies it to us in ways where we can thrive and benefit. Because I don't know who the fuck decided that, being the breadwinner and the boss babe was just like every woman's dream. But black women been working our asses off for centuries, okay? We never dreamed of finally leaving the house to go to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we do that. We we work. But that wasn't essentially that's not where our journey ended. Okay, we're not only trying to just be equal to men, we're trying to thrive in this world and use the system that is designed to oppress us to thrive. And that brings me to the concept of patriarchy being a contract, a literal contract drafted by men where they are meant to benefit more than their female counterparts. That is until women found loopholes in this contract and were able to gain leverage so that they could flip it and make the contract work in their favor. And instead of, voiding the contract altogether, which is patriarchy, dismantling the entire system of patriarchy, men want women to help them go in and revise that one part of the contract that just doesn't work for them, while still maintaining the contract overall. And we're not really having that. We're not going for it. The more I study womanism, the more radical my opinions and my views become. I am now to a point where I believe that men and women will never be equal, because in our most basic human form and in our highest, most healed form, women have a lot more to offer than men. Women have a lot more to naturally offer than men are willing to put themselves in a position to be able to offer. I hope that makes sense. So my womanism for me functions not as a tool to move humanity towards progression, but as a means for me to embody the power that others attempt to siphon and pretend not to see. On paper and out loud, black women receive so much praise for being strong women, queens, goddesses. The deification of black women is warranted, but it's misaligned in the way that it's approached, as we are expected to do the most in partnerships with black men. Many of us find ourselves mothering the men who are supposed to be romantically loving us, teaching and coaching him on how to be more emotionally intelligent as a means of establishing the safety needed to continue to be open and vulnerable with him in a relationship. Women are expected to take on motherhood, which is exponentially more spiritually, physically, and emotionally taxing than fatherhood. Handle a majority of the domestic labor due to men weaponizing their incompetence as a means to avoid certain tasks, and generate 50% of the household's income, and stay fit and sexy to keep her man loyal, because if he cheats, it would be her fault for letting herself go, and keep up with her man's high sex drive. Now, for some, this is a hill that they're willing to climb, and, in order to be chosen by a man, because it's a high priority for them, right? But for many women, relationships with men feel like working for a chance to go to work, and we don't want no parts. Our expectation to love unconditionally is also met with the expectation to accept the bare minimum, lower our standards, and undergo struggle as a virtue. God forbid a black woman desires the life of the queen that everyone keeps referring to her as. The deification of black women has been met with a paradoxical approach. We're placed on a pedestal and placed on the floor at the same time. Many black women are turned off when men call us queen because we understand what living up to the title would look like in his eyes. We see how it's deifying and dehumanizing at the same time, and how it actually harms us more than it helps us. So the irony is that black women only get the queen title for acting like a peasant. This means that she's overgiving, overextending, making herself easily accessible to men who just want to siphon her energy, use her, drain her for all that she's worth. Keep in mind, when they say black women are queens, they make sure to exclude sex workers and women who charge men for their essence and energy. They don't give that title to women who call the shots and take control of their interactions with men. I'm just saying. They reserve it for the naive ones. The ones that can be charmed, seduced, conditioned by words and compliments. Men seek power, and therefore they allot the queen title to those who they can overpower. It's like some sort of reverse psychology that I can't quite understand. But anyways, they're also excluding black women in moments where we express our pain, disappointment, or rage. The stereotypical angry black woman trope, which dismisses our feelings and completely invalidates us and shames us for having normal human emotions. Yeah, that one. Within the context of deifying the black woman, we are expected to suppress our anger and anything else that doesn't benefit the people around us. Others seem to believe that our purpose is to exist as a fountain of good things that are always available for the taking. We can shine as bright as we want as long as we're not casting that light on anyone's darkness. People don't like the angry black woman because it's a woman's anger that usually corrects someone, holds someone accountable, or tells the truth. It takes a special type of man to connect with a black woman with the intention of loving her in all of her entirety and meeting her majesty with the appropriate offerings in exchange. It takes a man willing to be a king and a servant in the same way that the black woman is expected to be a queen and a peasant. And let's not misconstrue the purpose of karma. Karma is not a punishment. It is the act of give and take in order to maintain balance and divine order. We don't go from treating women like property to men and women being equal partners and everybody living happily ever after. There are some reparations that need to be paid out, and I'm not just talking about monetarily. There's a softness that black women need to be met with, a sort of servitude that symbolizes an apology and a desire to actually make up for the pain that's been caused generationally, ancestrally, etc. While black women are human, I think that we do deserve to be deified. As our essence, energy, and sensuality cannot be replicated or replaced by anything that is not us. Our inherent worth is exponential, and everyone knows it, especially our men. That's why they come around. Even if all he thinks is one is pussy, because a woman of substance, we all know that a craving is for something much, much deeper. The pussy is still influencing his behavior. The pussy is still making him want to do things that he probably wouldn't do if the pussy wasn't a possibility. If all women's self-perception matched their worth, men would have to work a lot harder for sex and access to women than they already do. Men seem to need women like they need air. They need sex. They need our energy. They need our presence. It is because of this incessant need for us that our worth as lovers is higher. Now, I'm not one to say that anyone's better than anyone else or more worthy than anyone else, but I will say that as women, as lovers, our worth is higher. I am not here to say that women are better than men as human beings. I'm saying that as lovers, women do more and bring way more to the table. Why? Because she is the table. Women do not need to be in relationships with men in order to have orgasms, to experience pleasure, happiness, or even parenthood. Women desire men, but we do not need them to sustain our joy and our mental health. Women can adore their husbands and boyfriends to pieces, but even married women can't deny the facts. The benefit that women receive from men does not measure up to the benefit that men receive from women unless that man is meeting her halfway emotionally and providing financial stability and security. Women give more by default simply because of her essence, energy, and intangible assets. She's doing phenomenal things in her own time. She's good in bed. She's talented. She's smart. She's sweet. She's loving. She's nurturing. She inspires you. She's beautiful. She's intelligent. She's a status symbol. And then on top of that, she's doing everything that you like sexually and sensually. If you water her, all of these things that you love about her will magnify and she will continue to blossom. And she will open up for you like a flower, quite literally. Not enough men are watering women like gardens. Instead, they pick at our petals and our premature fruits, taking what they can get to temporarily sustain themselves. This explains why men tend to lose interest quickly and are constantly seeking a new object of their affection. In my last episode, I mentioned how men like to argue that they are biologically wired to seek new sexual experiences every so often. And as a response to that specifically, I can say that women are biologically wired to seek safety, stability, and security. So therefore, it takes a benevolent man to meet Black women at the level that they are at, and he must be willing to climb. Now let's get into this mysterious concept of the benevolent patriarch, okay, and how all this ties together. So given the birth and expansion of the modern womanist, men have begun to shift their perspective about patriarchy. When patriarchy controlled, limited, and oppressed the average woman on a daily basis, men were silent. Now that women have risen above subservience, denounced docility, and taken back their feminine power, men are realizing that even they can't live up to the gender norms established between straight men and women. It's funny how men were quiet about patriarchy when it worked in their favor. Women made themselves readily available in hopes of being chosen. Women compromised their boundaries and sometimes even their morals in attempts to keep men close. They changed the way that they dressed and looked in order to appease men, and even tore other women down for not fitting the standard of what a woman was supposed to be in relation to men. But that is not to say that those things are not still occurring in today's women, because it definitely is. But even in the realm of those things, there are womanist ideals present, which are designed to benefit women and children, the children that they're having for these men, a lot more than previous ideals. So men are now required to be emotionally available, emotionally intelligent, proactive about his mental health, mature, well-spoken, spiritually and or philosophically well-studied. They are expected to be providers, financially secure, and very generous. And they're expected to be protectors, strong, and able to shoot or fight, or both. So the men who just are not able to meet those requirements, they've coined a term for this type of man, and it's called the benevolent patriarch. The benevolent patriarch is a man who lives up to his manly duties in a way that serves women and children. If my dad would have been a more benevolent, I would have probably had a better childhood. I think we could have all used a benevolent patriarch as a dad growing up. But unfortunately, for a lot of men, this archetype is simply unrealistic, which I can understand. You know, they're finding that all the pressure to be all of these things is too much, and that it's taking a toll on their mental and emotional health. Maybe that's why millions of children, Black especially, grew up without their father. Because being a good dad or a benevolent patriarch is just too mentally and emotionally taxing. If that's the case, I don't know how single mothers manage to find a way to be everything that they can for their children and their families. How do so many women do it alone while the father of their children can't do anything at all? There's an innate strength that is present in women, which has way more to do with will, not skill. But anyways, as perplexed as I am about the timing of this concept of the benevolent patriarch, I can understand men's struggle with trying to fit into a patriarchal gender role. After all, none of us are superhuman. It's just so ironic that nothing about patriarchy upsets men more than the expectation to provide and protect. This is the only aspect about the system that they care to speak against. Otherwise, silence. The only thing that you hear when you pause the misogynistic rap music is crickets. Unless the conversation is about men being providers and protectors, then patriarchy is finally acknowledged as harmful to society. Now their mental health is at stake. Oh my God, guys, call 911. Their mental health is at stake because their access to women has been limited due to the fact that they can't actually keep up with patriarchy's demands. Call 911. Get an ambulance here quick. I'm so funny. So while women were working on themselves, healing the wounds that made them energetic matches for lousy partners, stepping into their power, denouncing patriarchy, denouncing all of these systems that are in place to oppress women, men should have been devoting themselves to dismantling patriarchy, devoting themselves on their knees. They could have organized and protested against a male-centered society, pushed for women's reproductive rights. They could have stood against domestic violence and showed solidarity for victims of sexual assault. They could have initiated more public conversations about men managing and expressing their emotions, held support groups for one another, mentored young men on how to treat women as people, as well as how to show up authentically and whole as a human being. But they did none of that. Instead, they shamed women through their very sacred process of realizing their worth and power, mocked feminism, called us misandrists, and put their backs against the wall to try and uphold patriarchy. They continued to fight against the LGBTQA community. They decided to slut shame women while consuming Instagram thirst traps and porn. They continued to vicariously live out the misogynistic rap lyrics of their favorite rappers. They continued to vote against women's reproductive rights while ignoring women's reproductive health in the medical industry. And now that women have collectively developed this new way of thinking and living for themselves that requires men to serve their best interests, men are finally awakened to the fact that patriarchy is harmful. It is at this moment that they decided to stand against some aspects of patriarchy, specifically the aspects of patriarchy that require them to do more and be more as men. Originally, like I said, patriarchy was a contract. And instead of voiding the contract altogether, they just want to revise that one little part that says, oh, you have to provide and protect. Why do we have to provide and protect? We are humans, just like you. Oh, okay. The problem with that is that women have absolutely no incentive to do such a thing. We are finally in a place where we have the freedom and ability to take care of ourselves, which means men are now bonuses to our lives instead of our main source of survival. Women are now in a place where we don't have to accept the bare minimum in hopes of being loved. We can now establish boundaries, standards, and requirements that make our involvement with men as beneficial to us as we are to them. Women now expect men to pour into us, not drink from us or drain us without giving us anything in return. We are likely to choose men who will make our lives easier, help us expand, or push us closer to our dreams. Why wouldn't we? It's not about using men. It's about intentionally cultivating relationships that serve our highest good. We no longer need men for survival because we can take care of ourselves at minimum. Now, we can engage with men as a means to thrive, not survive. Men, on the other hand, appear to need women for survival, claiming that their limited access to women is affecting their mental health. This revoked access is what inspired men to invent the concept of the benevolent patriarch, which seems to be the only aspect of patriarchy that men care to dismantle. Their interest lies in relinquishing all expectations of them while continuing to uphold the other aspects of patriarchy which benefit them. Not only is the benevolent patriarch the focal point of men's inspiration for wanting to dismantle patriarchy, but girl, guess what? They want women to forfeit our standards and expectations for the men that we allow in our lives as a means to help dismantle the benevolent patriarch as well. Child. Yet another thing that they want women to do. Another item on the list of things women are expected to take on. They do this because they insist that patriarchy has no gender. It's everyone's job to dismantle patriarchy. It was everyone's job to dismantle patriarchy a long time ago. Women were the only people who had even a inkling of desire to dismantle patriarchy, which is how we got to feminism, womanism, etc. Okay, now that women are expecting men to be providers and protectors, now it's everyone's job to dismantle this patriarchy, this benevolent patriarch. This is so laughable. But yeah, saying patriarchy has no gender is like saying white supremacy has no race, and I think that is foolish. And if I wanted to entertain the notion that this is true, the male patriarch and the female patriarch theoretically exist for different reasons. Okay. The male aims to maintain power and control, while the woman aims to thrive in a system that exists to oppress her. Two different things. So I'm going to end the conversation by saying this. Women who are listening, if you feel moved to help dismantle the benevolent patriarch, I support you. As long as you support me in my decision to say that's not my problem. That's just not my problem. That's not my problem. That's just not my problem. Okay, I'm sorry. Please don't click off. I need your support in me saying that is absolutely not my responsibility, and that whether you support me or not, my opinion is not going to change. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that benevolent patriarch thing. You guys keep working towards dismantling patriarchy, and we are going to continue making the best out of a system that we didn't create. Okay? So that's all I wanted to talk about for today. I appreciate you guys for listening. This episode was kind of long, but I just had a lot to say, and I wanted to say more, but that's all the time that we have for today. So until next time, in the meantime, please press like on this video and leave a comment if you feel compelled to do so. And if you're listening to this episode on my streaming platforms, I ask humbly that you please leave a review, rate my podcast. It really helps grow my platform and get my voice out in front of more people. So thank you. And I don't know if you see this painting in the background, but that is one of the many pieces that I have created over time. So if you visit the link to my Etsy store, you can shop one-of-a-kind canvas art created by me. You can also join me on Patreon, where I post bonus episodes speaking about things that are a little bit more personal and, stuff that I don't think anybody should have access to. And what else do I want to say? Oh yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Zajavuu, and that's where I'll be posting clips of this episode to help promote my platform. So thank you for supporting me and tapping in with me, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.